Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope that you are having a lovely day out there, wherever you may be. Today, we're going to check out a little bit from David Torn. We're going to listen to this track, 3 minutes of pure entertainment, which is perfectly, very perfectly fitting, of course, for the amount of time. The amount of time being 7 minutes. So, anyways, maybe within the track, there's only 3 minutes of pure entertainment, as they say, here on the track. But today we're listening to this because it was suggested by R. Gray. R, thank you so much for the recommendation. Thank you so much for the suggestion as well and the support. Now, I can't help but notice when I pull this up that there are some familiar names in the backing band playing with Mr. Torn. Mark Isham on trumpet. Did I say trumpet? Tony Levin, Bill Bruford. There's a lot of names in here. And can I tell you, don't laugh at me. David's name looks very familiar. I know I've seen his name before. And I just can't remember where I've seen him or like what albums or who he's played with that. It's looking familiar. I'm looking here really quick. I see he's played with Bowie, but not on any of the albums we've listened to. Sakamoto. But none of the albums, once again, that we've listened to. His name just looks very familiar. I'm here on Wikipedia just looking through really quick. He's played with Mick Karn. Has he played with Sylvian? Oh, The Secrets of the Beehive. Which track was Torn in? Oh, Boy with the Gun. I see track 2. I know immediately. Okay. I knew his name looked familiar. This should be amazing then. Let's go ahead and listen to the track. We'll discuss it after. Here we go. It's a cool sound. Almost a film noir-esque sound once. What a cool track this is. Very like a unique sounding kind of jazz. That's really cool. That's why I know it's cool. It's almost like King Crimson kind of essence of sounds. of sounds that come in your head. This must be the entertainment. This is such a cool like combination. What an awesome piece of music that was. Okay, so knowing the musicians and now thinking about Torn and, of course, where he's been involved in, you can really hear all of their very distinct influences coming together in this like very unique piece of jazz. Because that's what this boils down to, but it is like, it's jazz. If you were to take the formula of jazz, but each of the musicians is adding their own particular element. Levin, his bass is like adding that kind of growl that you would hear, of course, with like King Crimson, but also with like Peter Gabriel, especially like that, the pitch bending, the way he kind of works up and down on the strings and everything. It adds this really interesting bounce, but it's like a dark rhythm kind of underneath everything. Toss in Bill, and of course his time with Crimson and other bands as well. And his experimentation, you can hear him kind of experimenting with the sounds of everything, with the drums and the percussion aspects. And it kind of has a more metallic kind of sound that's happening back there. Maybe to an extent industrial adjacent. I wouldn't quite go as far as to say it, but maybe in that particular sector, it's moving over to that direction. And it's a really cool combination that those two create. It's a very metallic, to me murky, and kind of dark rhythm section if you take them. Then Isham on the trumpets and the interesting production style that he has on his trumpets. Like there's parts of it that sound very, this is just how I hear it, kind of noir-ish in the trumpet sounds. There's a little bit of like a dubbing or like an overdub or a doubling on his trumpets that make it sound a little bit bigger, almost like a horn section, like he's overdubbing with himself. And like it blasts out these lines that sound like they could be, for lack of a better word, standard jazz, you know, kind of a big band or a big horn section kind of sound. But the way that he plays it, some of the tweakings that I imagine he's doing kind of makes it sound more mysterious, a little bit more odd. There's a strangeness on the tips of the particular way that he plays those melodies. And I think that that is really unique because, you see what I mean? All these individuals are adding their unique spin on jazz. Then, Torn himself. Torn is playing so many different things with his guitar styling. Sometimes a lot more subtly, kind of, you know, playing according to the strangeness that's happening. There's a lot of background things that are happening in there. A lot of little synths that are, you know, constantly bubbling and playing around. You hear the bum, 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 bum. But then otherwise, other times his guitar kind of eclipses some of the other things and kind of plays, to an extent, just like this really interesting art rock kind of solo style that creeps on in. And when the drums come in and really play in like a much more standard kind of tune, that's what I'm imagining is that whole 3 minutes of entertainment that we're getting in, while everything else around it is a little bit more abstract and experimental, even though the 3 minutes inside is still experimental in its own. But like when it gets into this section. But listen to the horns, of course, Torn's guitar echoing with it. Like some of those horns, you could really hear those, like, you know, if it was played, for lack of a better word, in a normal band with horns and stuff, and I'm thinking of like a big orchestral jazz kind of band, you could hear how it would be, you know, the standard kind of sweeping, very beautifully romantic kind of big horns and stuff. But play it here, there's a little bit of that oddness that comes in. It just kind of gives it a little bit of shade. But this was a really, really interesting track to listen to. And it was really cool because to me, it sounded very unique, like extremely unique. Not quite sounding like really anything else, even though I will say maybe it's because of two members here, but it does have a little bit of a Crimson sound to it. But this was really, we should definitely check out some more tracks from Torn, or at least music that he's featured in. I would actually love to do that. Man, this was really, really good. I'm just looking at some of the work that he's. I'm just here on Wikipedia looking at, you know, there's places that he's been involved in and stuff. This was really a fantastic recommendation. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Of course, in the comments down below are great. Thank you so much for the suggestion. Thank you so much for the support. A really fantastic introduction to this, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for being here. Come back tomorrow, and I will see you all later. Bye, guys.